In my mind, I've kind of had it that, unless you get the Air or the Pro, you're like wasting your time with Lightroom and Photoshop. And I think that's just something that I've got in my mind. So I want to really go through this and see if it's viable to use. And I'm thinking that a lot of other people out there have got that same question, especially with the price point of this thing. Only being around, $300, $330, depending on if you get it on sale. It's such a good deal, and it's so nice to utilize. Like, I'm on my computer all day long, and even though I have a laptop, it's still taxing to utilize it when you're trying to lounge on the couch or something like that, as where this is a lot easier to use and lighter, and just you're able to, I think, get more comfortable in your downtime, be able to work on something in a relaxed way, which is what I'm looking for. Just to be able to get away from my laptop and to be able to utilize something that is, easy to use and allows me to still get stuff done. I at first didn't even think Photoshop or Illustrator would really be a thing. And I thought, well, gosh, why not? It's pretty decently fast nowadays in 2020. So anyways, let me dive into it. I'm totally waffling. Let me take a look and see here. And yeah, so all the images are now in my library. Basically, my next step is just that I got to import them into Lightroom. So let me open up Lightroom here. And then I just need to import. So let me do that. And from camera roll. So I'll go through here and select everything I want. And again, I got to look through these to see. I'm keeping my fingers crossed. There's one that is worth editing and that they don't all suck, but we'll see once I get to it here. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and add those. And those are adding now. And by the way, I had already created an album prior to loading these into the iPad. So just an FYI, that may be something you want to do too, so you can kind of keep things separated and organized, is to create an album for yourself first that you then load in the photos too. Now that I've got everything loaded into Lightroom, I'll start to actually, rate which ones I would want to actually work on. I did also purchase the Apple Pencil version 1, which is what works with this iPad. You can't, unfortunately, use the Apple Pencil 2, but this one does work great. I've just been going through and rating these, and I'm just on the last ones here. This is kind of just the way I go about it, as far as if I like something, just at least check marking and giving it a star. But I'm going to go back here, and the one that I want to work on is, let's see here, this one here. I really like the motion of the tram going into the city here, and the fact that it's blurred, but you can, it's not just lights blurred. You still have some representation of the light rail as well. So let's go ahead and start adjusting this a bit. So let's try auto and see what that does. So I'll start there, and we'll I just kind of start messing with the sliders to see what I'm liking, what I'm not liking. I may adjust back a little bit of what the auto did. Like, I like my images a little bit more contrasty. Of course, images are so subjective to each person's taste. So I'm just kind of messing with the sliders. And that's one thing I really dig about the iPad and using the pencil, is that, I don't know, adjusting the sliders a little bit more intuitive as far as wiggling them back and forth and kind of seeing what the effect is going to give you as compared to like using a mouse on a computer. Let's go into color here. And yeah, I think I still want to kind of keep the warmth, but I always like adding in a bit of magenta myself. Bump up the vibrance. Actually, it already did bump up the vibrance a little bit. Let's go down here to color mix. I don't think I'll do anything there. Let's try color grading though. Let's see here. So kind of maybe mess with the hues a little bit in the shadows here. Yeah, I think that's working. Bring in a little bit more color. Try not to overdo it, but more just give a little bit of an effect so that it adds to it but doesn't overpower it, is kind of my thing. And again, this is like a rough edit, so I'm just ultimately kind of trying to do this as quickly as possible for this video, but usually I would spend a bit more time and kind of really play with the sliders and see what I'm liking. Oops, bring that in a little bit more. Of course, you can end up doing that all day long and spending way too much time. I'm still learning this version of Lightroom as well. So as you can tell, I'm not the quickest with it yet. I'm still kind of messing around with it and figuring it out. As we're classic, I'm a lot better. Okay, so let me click here. And you can see here, it's keeping up really well. I mean, that's the one thing I was impressed with, is that it doesn't seem to be struggling at all. Now, I will tell you, I was messing with a photo prior to doing this video where I was adjusting colors, one of the color settings. And let me see if I can get it to do it here. I think it was under color mix. Let me see if I mess with color mix. And it was getting bogged down a little bit. But yeah, it seems to be doing fine tonight. So let's, yeah, it doesn't seem to be having any kind of issues. Let me double tap that so that it goes back to where it was. I think we're pretty close to done. I don't know if I really want to crop it too much. Maybe a little bit from the bottom. And bring that up just a little bit more. Go ahead and hit done. Yeah, I'm liking that. I think I might add a little bit more contrast. There we go. Maybe bring up the whites a little bit. No, yep. Yeah, there we go. Bring down the blacks a little bit more. Okay. And what's cool too is that you can easily get rid of all of the dialog boxes and just make it full screen. And what I'm also really liking is that this screen is big enough to where you can really see the image well. You're not having to struggle to see it like you would on, say an iPhone. That's where I'm really liking this iPad, is that you've got almost just like the perfect amount of screen real estate, but not so much to where the iPad becomes overwhelmingly like bulky and awkward to work with, or just kind of obnoxiously heavy as well. This iPad's still pretty light, and I purchased a really light case for it too. So I'm just kind of seeing here if there's anything else I want to do. Let me see here. I'm going to mess around a little bit more in this color grading section to see if I can make it pop just a little bit more, or add just a little bit more color. Oops, I didn't want to do that. Let me back up. But yeah, again, it's like that fine line where you don't want to overdo it, because then it just becomes just overworked and looks too manipulated. Okay, and I think that's what I'm going to go with. I'm liking that. And I think for just showing you on this video, it gives you a really good representation as far as you can see that it's not really getting bogged down. I mean, when you do adjust the sliders, it does go, it looks like a little bit blurry while it's making the adjustment. But it's not like there's anything coming up to where it's having to think about it before it renders it for you. It renders it really quick, right as you let off the slider. So I think we've covered Lightroom as far as giving a good example there. I'm going to now edit something in Photoshop so that you get a better sense as to what it's like to edit in Photoshop. Well, I hate to say this, but this is actually my third or fourth time of filming this. I've tried multiple times now to screen record on the iPad while doing the Photoshop example, and unfortunately I've come to realize that the iPad is limited with regards to that. When it's doing Photoshop, it basically, the recording will go for a little while and then it shuts it off. So anyways, I'm filming this externally on my camera. I apologize for it not being the best quality possible. Hopefully you're able to still see this pretty well. It's not my favorite way to do it because it's also difficult to set up, but let me jump into it. So we'll open Photoshop here, and let me go ahead and import the images that I'm going to work with. So I'm going to be utilizing 3 images in Photoshop and using masks to basically ultimately, I don't know if you can see this just yet. Well, here, let me go and open this. This bottom one here has no like real heavy overpowering lights coming from the cars. And so I'm using that as my base. And then I'm going to bring in the other 2 images that have either a light rail coming through, or as well, I think this was a bus in this one. But anyway, some really cool light trails that I was able to capture. So I'm going to be doing a composite here of these 3 images. And let me do this last one here and hit done. So like I was saying, I'm going to do a composite and basically use masks. So let me go to my first image here. Oops. Oh, I didn't want that. Let me back out. Let me go here. All right. So my first image, let's see here. There we go. That's what I wanted. This one here, I'm going to shut off so I can see the bottom layer while I do this. And then let me get my brush tool. And you can do this also with like your finger. Let's see here. Cut me because the target layer is hidden. Oh, oops. You can also use your finger, as you can see. I have to say, though, I really like using the pencil. It's kind of fun. It makes you feel like a bit of a kid again. And also, too, it's the first time I've been able to use like pressure sensitivity, which, you know, with a mouse, I never was able. You can't utilize it with that. So it's just fun. It's just a nice way to be able to work with your images, and it's expensive. I mean, it is like an extra $100, and it's also just the first version. You don't get to use the second version with this particular iPad, the 8th gen. But I'm liking it. I mean, so far it's great to work with, and the charging is kind of whatever, but it's super quick. It's not like that big a deal. So yeah, it's just fun. All right, bring back some of that. And yeah, I think that might do it for that one. And then let me actually uncover this one now so I can go back here and bring in some of the light rail. Oops, I was on the wrong layer. Let's bring in some of this light rail here. I am a huge fan of slow shutter speeds and getting cool light trail images. And this night worked out pretty well. But as you can see here on the second image, I unfortunately just could not get it to where I could not have car lights so close while capturing some other cool, you know, like the train or like a bus coming through, where you didn't get this overpowering light that just draws your eye. It's a bummer that that's what happens. But thank heavens for Photoshop. So anyways, I'm going to add a mask here as well. And we'll start to take out this car light here. Also kind of bring back the... by the way, I'm working on this a bit sideways, so it's a little bit wonky to try and film this so you guys can see it okay. Hopefully you're able to see that okay, though. But let me get it in here. And this just works so geniusly. It just blends so well. Get some of the sky too. And some more of these here. All right. Now I will tell you, I bought the 32 gig version. It's kind of a bummer they didn't make it at least 64, because it does seem to be a bit hindering, especially once you start messing around in Photoshop when it comes to memory. And so if I was to go back and do this again, I probably would get the next version up, which you spend like another $100, and it takes you to like 256. Now what I'm doing to just kind of circumvent that is just loading stuff on when I want to work on it and then just taking it off immediately. But it would be nice if you didn't have to worry about it as much. Oops. Oh, switch. Kind of want to bring that in more. There you go. Get a little bit more dark tones in the sky here. Yeah, I think that's coming together. Get a little bit more of the buildings here. And I mean, of course, the Photoshop, you can mess with it all day long. But that is what I love about this, is that it's like, you know, grab yourself a glass of wine, kick your feet up on the couch, and work with your photos, as opposed to having to sit at a computer that you've already maybe been sitting at all day long. All right, there we go. I think that does the trick. So now I'm going to add, I think I'm on the wrong one. That is the wrong, yep, I gotta hold down here. I'm still getting used to this. Oh, by the way, one thing I did notice too about Photoshop as compared to Lightroom is that you can work with raw photos in Lightroom, but you can't work with them in Photoshop. So for this, I actually brought in JPEGs. You could also bring in TIFF if you wanted a higher res file with better quality, but just to let you know, so far you're not able to work with raw images in Lightroom. All right, adjustment layer, levels, there we go. And this is another thing I like too, as compared to computers, just kind of being able to do this a bit. I don't know, there's something more intuitive about being able to work with the slider this way. Let's see here, let me bring up those midtones a little bit. And let's go ahead and click off of there. Oops, gotta click on there. Click there. Now, one thing I kind of still want to bring down is these highlights. I still feel they're a bit too bright. So let's go back to my layers there. I'm going to go to this one and just kind of mask them out just a little bit more again. There we go. Kind of like how it's bringing in that like more bluish tone there too. I don't know, that looks cooler to me. Okay, yeah, I'm digging that. Kind of go there. Let's see, click on this one here. Oops. Yeah, definitely still getting used to it. There we go. Kind of limit that one there. Okay, now that's not too bright. Yeah, I think that works. I'm liking it. So there you have it. And then I'll just go ahead and export this now. This will at least give you an idea of how long that took to. Let's see here, publish and export. I'm going to do a TIFF. And I'm going to save image to files. I think it's taking a while. There we go. All right, so let me scroll down here, Photoshop. And I'll hit save. I probably should have called that something. But there you have it. That's Photoshop. And yeah, let me wrap this up with my kind of final thoughts. I wouldn't use this for myself in a professional application. I would still use the iPad just for leisurely working on images. But for that, I think it works great. Now, back to the storage issue though, on this iPad that I bought, that's only 32 gigs and only having 3 images that I showed you that I worked on for Photoshop. I've gotten rid of everything else other than the final image that was created and the 3 originals. And I'm already at 22.8 gigs. And so that just doesn't leave a lot of room. I'm really having to manage, you know, when I add things and taking them off really quickly. If I could talk to myself a few weeks ago, I would definitely upgrade this to the 256 gig. It is $100 extra, which blows. Because I love the price point on this, but it's nice to just not have to constantly manage for memory. So anyways, you'll have to figure out whether that's a thing for you. Oh, by the way, I should mention, I kept this really slim as far as apps too. It's not like I have a lot on here. So I guess I should put that into the context of, this thing fills up really fast, even if you don't load a lot of apps on here. By the way, as a side note, I did get this case for the iPad for like $10 or so. And I just glued on some like Velcro straps for the pencil to go into. But anyways, this thing works great. It covers both sides. I'll leave an affiliate link below if you click on that. Thanks so much. I appreciate it. I hope it helped. If you got any questions, please, leave them down below. Otherwise, thanks so much for watching and hope you're well. And I'll see you in the next one. All right, bye. Let me